What's up, fight fans? Thank you once again for coming through. Much appreciated. Remember, hit the subscribe button if you guys are new to the channel. All right, let's talk Errol Spence Jr. versus Lamont Peterson. Firstly, let's just get this out of the way. I mean, let's calm down a bit, right? I've seen media, YouTubers like myself, fans, anyone really, saying it was Errol Spence top 5 pound for pound. Calm down. Calm down. It shouldn't be that easy to get pound for pound points. I mean, oh. Look. This is the thing. He beat Lamont Peterson. And again, look, don't shoot me. I'm not trying to say it was a great performance, and it was a great performance, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But prior to the fight, I think 99.99999% of people said that Errol Spence would run through Lamont Peterson. So if Errol Spence does what as is expected, don't get crazy about the performance. We can't go that crazy about it because that's what everyone expected, right? Lamont Peterson is a career 140-pounder. Lamont Peterson is a very good fighter. He's not an elite fighter. He's a very good fighter. If you look at his record, every time he has stepped up, he's kind of lost, and that's not me being critical. I think his biggest win on that record was probably Kendall Holt. I don't think he beat Amir Khan, and he was very close against Danny Garcia. But nonetheless, for me, the biggest 110% win is Kendall Holt. So it's difficult for me to watch a performance from Spence beat up someone that I clearly knew he was going to do that to, and then go, my God, it was crazy, and oh, wow. I can't do it. I can't do it. Again, not critical of Spence, but I'm just trying to say that we as fight fans should just look at the bigger picture sometimes, right? I think that's fair to say. Let's look at the bigger picture. In saying that, was Spence terrific? Absolutely. Spence was punch perfect. Spence was strong. He looked hurtful and spiteful at times. And that's one thing I would say. I've always wanted him to be a bit more spiteful. And he actually looked spiteful, which I think is going to be key against the elite fighters. And when I say elite, I mean Garcia, Porter, Furman, Crawford. Those are the ones that we keep talking about. If I am Garcia, Crawford, Furman, and Porter, there was a couple of times that Spence got tagged. I think that was more down to him just maybe taking a breather, thinking his fight was a bit too easy, but he got tagged a couple of times. And look, you need to take anything away. If you're those fighters, you need to take anything away you can, because Spence right now looks formidable. And you put it in your notebook and say, okay, if I do fight him, this is where maybe we could go. But it's going to be difficult for any of those guys against Spence for a number of reasons. He probably is the biggest 147-pounder. He's the youngest 147-pounder. His record right now is 23 fights, 23 wins, 20 knockouts, which is very impressive. And he's very, very confident. So that's very difficult. But in saying that, Crawford's unbeaten. Furman's unbeaten. Garcia's only lost once. And Porter's only lost when he stepped up. So these are good fights. So if everyone thinking these fights are foregone conclusions, then boxing, you don't know. They're very, very good fights. In my prediction, I did say that that Spence would stop him maybe round 4 to 5. If it goes past that, it could be a good fight. And I think this fight could have been stopped round 4 to 5. I think his trainer, Barry Hunter, probably let it go a couple more rounds than he needed to. But you can't blame him. It's a championship fight. People paid their money to see a fight, and Peterson is one hell of a tough competitor. He would have gone on 12 rounds. I think that's clear. I think they mentioned in the post-fight press conference, he would have gone on 12. But I think for his own safety, especially if he wants to fight again, there's no point taking punishment you don't need to take against a guy that clearly outweighed you on the night by about 10 or 12 pounds. It looked as though it was a 140 guy in there against a 154-pound guy. That's the size difference it looked for me. About Spence, I think Spence is fantastic for boxing. I really do. Look, I did an Anthony Joshua video about Joseph Parker the other day. And I said, look, Anthony Joshua, talk a bit of trash talk. And I'm going to contradict myself here because Spence doesn't talk trash. Spence just comes to fight. But more importantly, Spence looks like someone that lives the life. I think it's fair to say Spence looks like he lives life. I mean, you compare him to someone like an Adrian Broner, and that's a far extreme, I admit. But Adrian Broner looks like he clearly doesn't live the life. Adrian Broner clearly looks like he wants to do anything else but box sometimes. Looks like he wants to be a rapper. Looks like he wants to be a club promoter. Errol Spence just wants to box. And he does it in a way where if I'm a young fighter coming up, if I have a young protege coming up or a young prospect, I'm going to say, follow what Spencer's doing. and hopefully you'll get your rewards. And for me, hopefully Spence does start to get some rewards. I mean, there were 12,000 at the Barclays Centre the other day. The Barclays Centre does hold 19, so there's still some way to go. But I'm happy that he got 12,000. I think 12,000 is pretty good for Spence because, look, the undercard wasn't great. So really, 12,000 is him and him alone. If he matches up against someone like a Garcia or Porter, which I think are good matches next, then I think he will do 90,000. I think he'll go MSG and sell that out. And I think this is good progression. Look, we all want to see a next superstar, but I think people have very short memories. Mayweather in his sort of 22nd, 23rd fight, I think for Emmanuel Augustus in, I can't remember the arena in Detroit. He wasn't doing great, crazy numbers. Admittedly, after that he fought Corrales, but then again, after that he fought, look at the record. He fought in small arenas. So it does take time to build a fighter up. But for now, I think Spence is doing good things. He talks well. He fights well. And I think that almost is enough. That almost is enough. And I think as long as we can get him in a good matchup next and get him out soon. Look, this is the problem with Spence. Last year in 2017, he fought one fight, which was Kell Brook, which is ridiculous. If you're Spence, you're young, you're unbeaten, you want to be fighting, for me, 3 to 4 times a year minimum. So if I'm Spence, I'm looking at it now, I'm thinking I want to be out April, May latest. Even if it's not a big name, even if I don't get the 4 guys that I want, Garcia, Furman, Crawford and Porter, nothing wrong with that, but just stay busy. That's the most important thing for Spence now, is stay busy, keep sharpening your tools. As much as we want to see those big fights, I fully understand, and us as fight fans should understand, those fights take long to build. They're not just like that. And they're not like that for a number of reasons. And the first reason is money. If I'm Garcia and if I'm the rest of those guys, I want to get paid very well to jump in the ring with that monster. And that's not going to happen until the fights get bigger and they build up. So Garcia obviously is fighting Rios next. Furman's having a tune-up. I'm not quite sure who Porter's fighting, but I think those fights really should be for summer, September 2018. Guys, what did you make of the performance? Did you see holes? I saw a couple. Or were those holes purely because Spence knew he was winning, took a couple of rounds off, maybe took his foot off the pedal a bit, and that's the reason we saw holes? Or if you are Furman, if you are Crawford, do you look at that and think, something to work with here? But let me know what you think. What if you're Lamont Peterson? What do you do next? Do you retire? It's tough for Lamont Peterson because the 147 division, in terms of the very, very good fighters, are tough fights for him. They really are. Lamont Peterson is a small 140. I've always said that. He's tough. He's gritty. But because you got handedly beat by Spence, doesn't mean you still can't make some money and fight guys in and around the top 15. Does that make sense? Because you got beat by one person, it doesn't mean you should be throwing a towel in, I don't think. I still think that Lamont Peterson is a good name for up-and-coming fighters. I think he can still put himself in a position to fight some of the guys that Amir Khan's now back. They could want to maybe throw up again. Remember, there was the controversy in terms of their fight. Amir Khan might want that fight again. I think Lamont Peterson right now in his career would easily travel to the UK. So there are fights out there. But I'm not sure. Yesterday was a bit of a beating. And I think psychologically that can weigh on your mind a bit. But guys, what do you think? Let me know. Peace.